Hello and welcome to another Talk to Stu video with me, Stu Magoo. And in this video we are looking at some of my frequently asked questions again, or indeed one of my frequently asked questions. This is video number 3. So obviously video 1 and video 2, the questions there were slightly more frequent than the question that I'm covering today. And as with all these videos, if you do find it's of benefit to you, then hit all the buttons, like, share, subscribe, all of that sort of things that help support the channel. And yeah, it's also good for you because hopefully in the future you can either join me for one of my live Q&A sessions at the start of the month on the first Tuesday of the month or the first Tuesday of the month. And equally, I've got loads of other videos, not just my FAQs, but videos on how to fill out certain benefit forms, what to do about power of attorney, things like that, loads of stuff. So do follow the channel for all of that. But enough of that, let's get into the question. So the thing that comes up for me very frequently, that's sort of asked, or sometimes a statement that I need to kind of correct with people, is should I fill out my disability benefit form as if I'm writing about me on my worst day? Okay, so this is a very common thing that people think regarding disability benefit forms, and to a certain extent it makes a bit of sense. But the problem with this approach is it can lead you into some problem areas further down the road if you're awarded the benefit and you've arguably made statements that could be misleading about how your disability affects you overall. So let me explain a bit more on why you need to be careful with this. So first of all, this particular idea has been used by a lot of disability benefits assessors over the years, and indeed many years ago, it was something that the DWP would say themselves. But it's a slight misunderstanding of how to do it. Now, since then, the DWP, when they've sent out their liaison officers to train people like myself at Age UK, when I used to work there, would say to us, actually, no, don't do that. Don't write it as if it's on your worst day. So you can understand why this is sort of suggested, because when you're trying to get into the mindset of filling out the form, you need to write in as much detail as you possibly can. And for a lot of people, that's very hard to kind of get that concept over in your mind, because generally speaking, we don't try to focus on all the negative points about ourselves and our conditions, because to be honest, if we do that, it can be quite depressing. And indeed, when I've supported people filling out forms over the years, a big part of it is supporting them emotionally through the process of filling out the form. Because for a lot of people, particularly older people, when doing attendance allowance forms, you kind of just get used to all of the health problems and disabilities that you kind of develop over the years, and you sort of forget about quite a lot of them. And indeed, for younger people with long-term health conditions and multiple comorbidities, as they say in the medical profession, as in lots of different conditions, then, you know, that can be quite sort of demoralising and a bit depressing to kind of go through and think, well, I can't do this and I can't do that and I can't do the other and all of that. So it can get you down a bit. So we don't naturally tend to think of ourselves in that way, and indeed it's good that we don't. So often we'd say to people, think about how it is on your worst day. Don't think about how it is on your best day. And we'll try and get as much detail over, because it's about that detail. That's what we need, is that level of detail going into the form. But there's a caveat to that. So if you put it over as if it's your worst day, and it seems as if that's how it affects you every day, then you could be leading yourself into a problem area. So simply put, most people's conditions are to a certain extent variable. Some aren't, you know, some are very obvious. Like, for example, if you've had a leg amputated below the knee, then the effect of that is pretty much going to be the same on your mobility, at least on a daily basis. It's not really going to change. Even if you've got a prosthetic or use a stick or use a wheelchair or whatever, that's not really going to change. But for a lot of people, we're dealing with things like chronic fatigue, pain levels that go up and down, maybe organ function changes, maybe it's cognitive function changes and goes up and down. So these things are variable and they change from day to day. So what is really important is it's good to think about how you are on your worst day. But it's also equally important to make sure you communicate the variability of each and every symptom of your condition or disability that you have. Okay, so if something like chronic fatigue affects you for, say, 4 or 5 days out of 7, then make that clear. If there's some days where it's affecting you not as bad, but still bad, then make that clear as well. And if there are some days where it doesn't affect you at all, also make that clear. What I have seen in the past is some people, through no fault of their own, often being directed by somebody who's filling out the form for them, they've done it on this write it on your worst day kind of idea, and then maybe somebody further down the road has picked up on that, maybe made a complaint to the DWP saying, I think this person's claiming fraudulently because I saw them going off and doing some exercise, which is very frustrating because obviously a person can be disabled and may also need to exercise. It might have been medically recommended that they exercise, but they go off once a week and they do some exercise if they're well enough. But that wasn't communicated in the form that was filled in, so when the DWP investigate this, that person is then facing charges of fraud. Even though essentially they weren't fraudulent, they really do have the disability, it really does affect them in quite a negative way, and if they'd have communicated it properly, they would be eligible for that benefit. However, because of this miscommunication, it means the benefit wasn't assessed to the proper level. And so that person can end up finding themselves as having their award removed, and they may even have to pay back quite a lot of it. On top of all of that, the process of essentially a fraud investigation by the DWP is very, very stressful to have to go through, as I'm sure some viewers of this channel will have experienced for themselves over the years, even if you are essentially completely innocent. You know, it was just an administrative error that's happened. Now, the DWP make administrative errors all the time, and, you know, arguably they don't really get taken to task, or certainly not put through quite so much stress in the same way. But nonetheless, this is how the system is set up. So it's something that you need to be aware of. When you're filling that form in, make loads of notes about your condition, all the different symptoms and everything. Make the notes beforehand and think about how it affects you one day to the next. What is the variance? Whether it's your mobility, your fatigue, your pain levels, all of those things. Think about what that is and make sure you communicate it properly. If you don't find there's space in answering certain questions, particularly with PIP, those questions can be quite prescriptive. Do make sure you communicate it in the additional information. And as always with everything, make sure you provide as much evidence as you possibly can. The more medical evidence that you can put in there to support your conditions, to support what they are, then the better. Okay, so that in brief is my answer to the question of should I write my form as if it's on my worst day. The answer is essentially no, don't do that, but try and think in those terms when making your notes and putting things together in the first place. So if you've made it this far to the end of the video and you found that helpful, thank you for watching, and please do, as I say, like, share and subscribe, and look out for my other FAQ videos which will be coming soon. And also don't forget to tune in, as I say, first Tuesday of the month and I will be doing my live Q&A where you can come and ask me questions about benefits, questions about disability benefits, questions about health and social care and everything in between on those subjects, and I'll happily have a chat. And it's a great community as well. We've got loads of people who are supporting each other, who join the channel in the chat, and yeah, it's great. So join us for that, and thank you again for watching. So yeah, I look forward to seeing everybody soon. Take care. Bye bye.